Hey everyone, welcome back to Brian's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail. Today's case really hits home for me because since I was a little kid, my family has owned a vacation, a little cottage home up in the area where this took place in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, which I'll get into more. Those of you that have followed my channel, I've told a few stories about things that have happened up there, at least in my past. Today we're going to be talking about the disappearance of 42-year-old Megan Amanda Marrone. Now, she was last seen in Lee, Massachusetts. I'm going to have some maps up, as always, on March 27th of 2022. She disappeared while going on a hike in the Longcoat property, which is a small park around 43 acres, not too far from the hotel that she was staying at. Now, this hotel, the Red Lion Inn, is a famous hotel in the Berkshires. In fact, my twin brother and I, during our college years, we stayed at this family home up in the Berkshires, and we worked at the Red Lion Inn for the whole summer. Almost every day for 3 months, I went to work at this place. It's a beautiful hotel. A lot of people come up from New York City or Albany. Now, she was from the Del Mar area, which is a suburb of Albany. She was a school teacher, a high school English teacher. She was not only a teacher, she was a poet, she was a writer. She loved to carry around her typewriter. She loved to have this little setup where she would wear her nice dresses and write poems for people. She was just full of zest, full of life. She was an activist about protecting the climate and the environment. All her students apparently loved her. Her friends and family, everybody just seemed to adore her. We're not exactly sure what happened in and around this time, but she did let her family and friends know that she was going to be taking a small leave from work. We later found out that it had something to do with a colleague that she might not have been getting along with, but that's pretty much irrelevant to what happened. We do know that on March 24th of 2022, she drove the roughly hour drive from her home in Del Mar, New York, to the Red Lion Inn in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. She had planned to stay there till March 30th. Now, on the evening of March 26th, she did have a phone call with one of her relatives, her brother. She said that she was doing well. She was just in her room reading a book and having some soup. Point of note, this Red Lion Inn is famous for their New England clam chowder and other very nice and rustic, authentic amenities. So it's not without question or wonder why she picked this spot. Many people love to come to this inn to just relax and get away from it all. However, her family on March 29th did become concerned. They hadn't heard from her in a couple days. For those of you that may not be familiar with this area, it's a very quaint, very quiet area. It is not known for high crime rates, very low population. I believe the town where my family's cottage is, the population is just around 1,000 people that live there full time. The investigation for the disappearance of Megan got started right away. On March 27th, 2022, her black 2017 Subaru Impreza was found abandoned on Church Street at approximately noon. It was found by a local resident. It was parked near the Longcoat Park. This park was only roughly a 5-minute drive from where she was staying. Like I said, it's between 43 and 46 acres. There's some discrepancy online, but a very small park. When they found the car, it was abandoned and unlocked, which according to her family was very uncharacteristic of her. She always locked her doors. Inside, the authorities found some clothes, some CDs, some film, a pair of shoes. They did note that these clothes seemed to be hiking clothes, so they originally thought that she had driven out to this park and maybe just gotten out of her vehicle to sort of survey the area before she started hiking, possibly got lost in doing so. They also said that the keys were nowhere to be found. They assumed that she most likely had them on her. The search and rescue teams brought in ATVs, various canine units. They eventually brought in a helicopter as well. Here's another map of sort of where the car was and then the Longcoat property. By March 29th, the authorities had conducted over a 2-square-mile area, including, of course, the Longcoat property, various nearby areas and other parks in the area. They brought in drone teams, more canine units. However, unfortunately, there was still no trace of Megan to be found. One thing I also wanted to point out, having basically grown up in and around these areas, exploring, years and years before I ever went out west to explore even more dense areas. This is a good representation of how the forests often look, and in this area. They're very flat, very spread out. It's not like some of the denser locations out west or some of the other cases that I've covered on this channel. The authorities were very confident that they would find her very soon, but they just had no trace of her anywhere. On March 27th, her cell phone was pinged to a rural residential area right across from Church Street, so right across from this park area. The signal eventually then went dead around 3 p.m. So unfortunately that lead didn't give them any information. They didn't have anything to go on. They did look at that area, but there was no evidence or clues there either. The weather in and around that area at the time of her disappearance was fairly mild, in the mid to upper 50s during the day. Some rain, but there wasn't any ice. The temperatures only went down to about the mid 40s at night. However, this can get cold and it can lead to hypothermia if someone is unprepared or if they don't have the right resources. Unfortunately, the search was eventually called off and they had no idea what could have possibly happened to Megan. It would be roughly almost 6 months later when a local resident from the town of Lee was off in a wooded area off Fox Drive. He was just off for a basic walk, just enjoying the fall time, when he came across what he believed to be human remains. He, of course, ran to get help. The authorities were brought in right away. They immediately began to believe that it was the remains of Megan. However, it would take another 3 days before they would get confirmation using various DNA analysis. After days of testing, they were able to confirm that it was the remains of Megan. Of course, this was just shocking and a tragedy to all of her family and loved ones. The authorities still had no clue or what happened to her. They, of course, brought her to the local hospital, started running tests. These tests took weeks and weeks, even after extended autopsies. The medical examiner's office could not determine a cause of death or how she even ended up in that particular spot. According to the local police department, this is still an ongoing investigation. They are trying to establish what could have possibly happened to Megan on that day. They are trying to determine if anyone else was involved. However, their preliminary statements indicate that they don't believe foul play was involved. There was no sign of a struggle. On the remains, there was no injuries or anything of that nature. According to the medical examiner's office, due to time and the weather, other factors, there was just no way to determine for certain what possibly happened. Now, a couple of different theories. This area is not that far off of the Appalachian Trail, roughly a 2-hour, 35-minute hike. A lot of people will get off trail to go into town to resupply. Is it possible that someone got off trail and met her just arbitrarily and things went wrong? Who knows? I mean, these things are always possible. There is a lot of black bear in and around this area. In fact, one of the parks right near my family's place is called Beartown State Forest, and people have always witnessed various bears in and around the area. Of course, there's usually evidence of that. There was none, so it's very hard to say. Is it plausible that she passed away from exposure? Yes, the temperatures got down into the mid 40s. She had left all her clothes or her hiking clothes in the truck if she got disoriented somehow. But then why wasn't she in the actual park area? Unfortunately, this is often the outcome even when the person is found. Even when they're found deceased, it raises more questions than answers. I'm sure the family is wanting those answers. My thoughts and prayers go out to Megan, her friends, her family, everybody who knew her, all the search teams that helped look for her, just praying that you will get those answers and that you will find peace. Thank you all for watching and all your support. Special thank you to co.ag for providing the background music. I will see you all in the next one. Take care. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me to the end. Today's hiking, camping, adventure tip will be: when you go out on any type of adventure, especially if you're going solo, but even if you're going in a group or small group, definitely let at least 2 different people that don't live in the same household, let them know your itinerary, leave them your estimated times and maps if you have them. This way, if you don't check in, they know something is wrong within a certain amount of time. Another tip when selecting your gear, you can get great deals looking online or in stores. A lot of times people want to sort of look their best for a hike. They won't buy something because of the color or the style. It's going to get dirty and messed up anyway. I remember I got one pair of shoes for like $60. The original price was $160 or $150. I got them almost $100 off just because it was not the color that everybody wanted. And it was green and sort of a darker yellowish color. They were fine, and they got dirty within a couple of miles into that hike. All I'm saying is there's just a lot of great ways to save money on gear. There's places like eBay and other places where you can buy slightly used gear that's in great shape for hundreds of dollars off. In conclusion, I just wanted to mention this one quick fact about the case, or piece of information that you might stumble upon if you do further research. At one point after Megan went missing, one of her friends wrote a letter to some of the people covering this case, like different magazines, stating that Megan at some point before this trip had confided in him that she was being harassed by someone, that she felt uncomfortable by this person, that she felt so uncomfortable she didn't even want to go back to her house, and this was possibly the reason that she left for a little bit of time. However, since she didn't pen this letter herself, the veracity of such statements are up for interpretation, or even the validity of them. We just don't know. I did want to mention it because I know a lot of you do your own further research, and I know that this will come up. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.